Tonight, all hail Victoria's new sporting hero.
Edge taken, 6 for. What is going on?
Scott Boland leads Australia to Ashes glory on his Test debut. Exclusive access to the team celebrations inside the MCG. Plus an urgent plea as COVID testing wait times blow out across Melbourne. Case numbers soar around the country. New daily records in Victoria, Queensland and South Australia. Canberra rocked by an explosion felt for kilometres. And the race for line honours as the Sydney Hobart goes down to the wire.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor starts now.
Good evening. Victoria is toasting a new sporting hero tonight with Scott Boland's stunning performance leading Australia to an Ashes clinching win. The 32-year-old from Parkdale had the MCG stands rocking after one of the greatest debuts in cricket history brought England to its knees.
After 10 years toiling in the Sheffield Shield,
Close. Up goes the finger.
Scott Boland is an overnight sensation.
Gone! Scott Boland's debut can't get any better.
A humble hero who doubted he'd ever make it.
There was definitely a time where I thought playing for Australia was gone.
But in the stands, his exuberant, proud family says Scott earned this through years of sheer work and devotion.
It's something you just can't think was ever going to happen. At 32, he's done his debut and look how he's gone. Absolutely bloody amazing. Sorry.
The best haul on Test debut by an Aussie ever at the MCG.
Return catch. There it is. 5 for 5.
A staggering 6 for 7.
Edge taken, 6 for. What is going on?
A new hero for the MCG outer.
Scott Boland's insane. My goodness, it was ridiculous.
Victorian at the MCG Boxing Day. That's just amazing.
The big fella on debut. Oh dear me. Crowd going nuts.
I'd like to thank the crowd so much for support over the last 3 days. I've really appreciate it.
You could see the joy on the face of the previous MCG favourite Merv Hughes as he commentated.
Mate, that is outrageous.
Having discovered their Indigenous heritage 6 years ago, receiving the Johnny Muller Medal for Player of the Match meant so much to his family.
I really thought I was going to have a heart attack on level 4. It's just been unbelievable. We're so proud of him.
It's felt like a dream. Like when we were up there and he was getting those wickets, I had to pinch myself. Like, is this real?
But Dad Mick had to work this morning. He missed it all, arriving at the G after the match had finished.
Oh, someone give me a beer. It's a dream come true for the family, so absolutely over the moon.
With England all out for 68, the Aussies retained the Ashes in just 12 days, less time than the English had to quarantine when they first arrived.
It's what, dreams are made of, the way we've played.
It had been a day of drama. After a COVID scare yesterday, the game could continue after the entire English team tested negative overnight. Huge queues returned to the MCG. Few expected to see just 80 minutes play. And after the glory here, the eyes of the cricket world now turn to Sydney for next week's test. The crowd's gone, the players lounged on the ground with their families. Despite the growing COVID crisis in Sydney, they're scheduled to fly there on Friday.
Any speculation the Sydney Test match is not going ahead is completely untrue. The Sydney Test is a highlight on our state's calendar. It is happening. I can't assure you how long it will last given what we've seen today.
Scott Boland showed his wife and daughters the scene of his triumph. Ironically, he could lose his spot in the side for Sydney because veteran Josh Hazlewood is now fit after a day his family will cherish forever.
One bloody hell of a kid, I tell you.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Health bosses are pleading with Melburnians to delay queuing for COVID tests until after midday as weary staff struggle to keep up with the surging demand. Victoria today recorded a pandemic record of more than 2,700 new cases, but the Andrews government is ruling out bringing back any new restrictions.
Victorians have been strapping themselves in for hours in testing queues. Now many are left waiting days for the results. Maggie Lamb spent Christmas in isolation, not receiving her result until 5 days after being tested at a Foresight pathology clinic. It came back negative.
Yeah, if I had known they were going to take 5 days, my Christmas could have been a lot different. I tried to contact them via email twice. I've tried to reach out on social media and I've tried to call them, more than 10 times.
Psychiatric nurse Patrick Forno is desperate to return to work, but 4 days after his swab with Foresight, still nothing.
No symptoms whatsoever. So that part is really frustrating. And obviously I've returned negative rapid tests as well. So it sort of just feels like you're waiting for the sake of waiting.
The Department of Health, I'm advised, are working with that company. They're working with them to look at ways that efficiencies can be made to their system.
The state government says 84% of tests are turned around within 24 hours.
A significant amount of that pressure has been put on as a result of other states making decisions for testing requirements before people can travel.
Pause government advertising, wasteful government advertising on big build and all that up to Australia Day. Use that money and go and put it back into the system to get our PCR tests quickly, because that's what we deserve.
The state recorded its highest daily total since the beginning of the pandemic, 2,738 cases and another 4 deaths. Hospitalisations dropped slightly, 361 people being treated for the virus. The government is still awaiting health advice before announcing any changes to replace the bulk of PCR lab tests with rapid at-home kits. But experts say as the Omicron variant increases, swarming testing sites could fuel the spread.
If you're lining up with 200 people to get tested in New South Wales and Victoria, about 10 of those 200 will have COVID, whereas in the general community out of 200 people, only 1 will. So it'll be safer to use a rapid antigen test.
And despite the huge spike in case numbers over the festive season, the acting Premier assures there won't be increased restrictions for New Year's Eve.
The advice hasn't changed, whether it's for Christmas, New Year.
The Chief Health Officer is urging Victorians who need that negative PCR test to travel to wait until after midday before heading down to a testing site. The Health Department hopes that this will reduce wait times and allow those with symptoms or close contacts to get through the system earlier. Meanwhile, for anyone planning a holiday to Queensland, you will no longer be required to test on day 5. However, you still do need that PCR test within 72 hours of your arrival. And in some not so good news, Mike, 7 News understands that health authorities here in Victoria are bracing for another record day of cases tomorrow.
Yeah, that is not good news. Jade Vincent, thank you. The acting Premier has savage reports claiming information from Victoria's QR code system isn't being kept private. It's been revealed WorkSafe applied for data during an investigation and was knocked back. COVID Commander Jerome Weimar then applied to a court to keep the request secret, saying he was worried it would rattle trust in the system.
The public has a right to know who in government has instructed Jerome Weimar to go to court to prevent this story being made public.
I'm advised that the contact tracing information that's been collected has never been handed over. And through the new pandemic legislation, there are even stronger measures in place to protect this information that Victorians have provided.
Victoria Police has also previously unsuccessfully applied for the data. COVID cases are exploding across the nation, with Queensland and South Australia also recording a record number of new infections today. The testing crisis has forced some travellers to go to extremes just to cross interstate borders.
As Queensland's travel rules ease slightly, their cases soar. For the first time, more than 1,000 were recorded, smashing their previous record by 40%. In New South Wales, new case numbers dropped slightly, 6,062.
Our plan is working.
But hospitalisations have more than tripled in a fortnight to 557. Their testing bungle has also deepened. Another 486 people with COVID wrongly told they'd tested negative.
I feel like it's almost like a show.
My mum has woken up pretty crook. I feel like I could have prevented all of that if I had received my positive result from the get-go.
The testing system under so much strain, some Sydney residents have been lining up since 3 a.m. Others booking international flights just so they can qualify for priority testing.
I have to book a flight to Bali and then get my thing and then try and get a refund to Bali. The refund, it's not probably the most honest thing to do, but it's the only way I can physically get to Queensland right now.
Heavily pregnant women in New South Wales are being made to wait in long queues to get regular tests as a hospital entry requirement, as has new mother Katrina, so she can see her premature twin boys in ICU.
We went there at 4 o'clock today at 4 a.m. I had to do my lactation in the car.
Their stories prompting the government to intervene.
My understanding is it is getting fixed today.
Dominic Perrottet again called on Queensland to scrap their pre-testing travel requirements.
If we can move that PCR requirement to a rapid antigen test requirement, that will significantly alleviate some of the pressure on the testing over summer.
In South Australia, another record, 995 new cases.
Being a double of those figures every 3 to 4 days.
A 19-year-old from Adelaide hasn't helped, partying at a nightclub after receiving a text saying he was COVID positive. Dozens from the venue have since fallen sick. He's been arrested and bailed and faces up to 2 years jail.
Do you have anything to say about your action?
What we can say for sure is that the cases are increasing in Australia and will carry on doing so really quite dramatically, I would think.
In the last fortnight, this is what's happened to daily case numbers in Queensland, South Australia, the ACT and Tasmania, all now increasing rapidly. While their hospitals aren't yet under pressure, experts say it's just a matter of time. Western Australia was the only state with no new cases today. They'll also be the only state where you can't party at a nightclub on New Year's Eve. Christy Cooper, 7 News.
Pressure is mounting on Australian health authorities to consider shortening the recommended time that COVID-positive patients need to isolate. The US Centre for Disease Control and Prevention is recommending the isolation time for people without symptoms is cut from 10 days to 5, providing they wear a mask for at least 5 days after their isolating period. 2 people have been arrested over a wild fight in the city. Police were called to an apartment on Latrobe Street around 7 o'clock this morning. A man was taken to hospital with facial injuries, a woman treated for a wound to her upper body. A 35-year-old woman from Noble Park and a 40-year-old man from Blackburn North are in custody. A huge explosion has rocked Canberra with a fireball wiping out 3 businesses. The blast was so ferocious, shockwaves were felt for kilometres.
No lead up, no warning. Just a massive explosion and flames 20 metres high. The blast so powerful it blew the roof off the building and destroyed 3 businesses in an instant.
My first impression was that it was a plane crash.
The epicentre, a Turkish kebab shop in Canberra's north. The owner, the only one injured.
His clothes were with the fire, his head, his arms, it's all burned.
What caused the blast is under investigation. Witnesses say the man had just gone back inside after he'd finished cleaning when it happened.
Very grateful that there was only 1 person injured. It could have been a lot worse.
It very nearly was. The explosion toppled a wall onto the man's car, narrowly missing his wife who was standing next to it, but trapping his 2 children inside. Mohammed Ikram was in the car park and saw it all unfold.
Then I ran to save the kids, opened the rear door of the car, took the kids.
Insulation, plaster and glass was sent hurtling across the neighbourhood.
Well, I thought it was raining because stuff was falling on the house, so I thought it was thunder at first.
The blast was felt 3 kilometres away.
I cannot believe it, no, it is, yes. It is definitely something.
It wasn't just neighbouring businesses that were damaged in the explosion. This building is at least 100 metres away, and its windows were also blown out by the shockwave.
I've been in 18 years.
And you've never seen anything like this?
Not to this extent, that's for sure.
It's understood the injured man may need to be flown to Sydney for specialist treatment. Rob Scott, 7 News.
The Sydney-Hobart yacht race is going down to the wire with strong southerly winds ensuring a barnstorming finish. Supermaxis, Blackjack and Law Connect are neck and neck for line honours, but other rivals are hot on their heels.
Tearing across Bass Strait, the 80-footer Stefan Racing, a carbon fibre missile. Now in 4th place and revelling in the pace.
25 knots of boat speed. Absolutely.
The excitement building after 30 knot southerlies faded overnight, only to recover later today. And up ahead, this is Law Connect battling Blackjack for the lead, a super maxi tacking duel down the Tassie coast. These photos show the tactician glued to his screen as the crew topside push the boat to the limit. The skipper's son cheering them on.
This is his 4th one, he hasn't backed out, and I'm proud of him.
Everyone glued to the yacht tracker, they know it's neck and neck.
I'm surprised that we've been able to hold Law Connect because they're stronger, theoretically stronger upwind than we are.
Veteran of this gruelling race, as is Peter Shipway, 31 Hobarts, first over the line 5 times. One of those was on Love and War in 74, again in contention for another handicap win.
They're not even halfway through this race, and it's such a tricky race, the last part, especially across Storm Bay.
The latest forecast, though, is encouraging.
They're about just under 100 miles to go, and they're doing between 10 and 14 knots, so there's a really good breeze.
But there's still the challenge of the Derwent, traditionally, historically, where the wind drops off, where dreams are made or dashed.
One boat could get the breeze and one could miss out, so that could really dictate terms who wins line honours.
But for whoever shows up first, celebrations will be a little bit stalled. No crews will be allowed onto the dock unless they return a negative result for a rapid COVID test. The crowd slowly building at Constitution Dock for the end of this neck and neck nail biter. In Hobart, Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Time for a look ahead to sport with Andrew McCormack. And Mac, I can't believe I'm going to ask this, but could Scott Boland be dropped for the SCG
well,
test?
Mike, as crazy as that sounds, it might be the case. One Aussie champion says the Boxing Day hero will be cooling his heels in Sydney. Coming up, the demolition job of the tourists that left Joe Root once again fending off captaincy questions from critics, including one legend who says he's embarrassed. Naomi Osaka arrives in Melbourne. How the Australian Open defending champion plans to re-emerge from the tennis wilderness, and Paddy Mills thrills under the bright lights of Hollywood. Also coming up, will the Sydney Test actually go ahead? We asked the Cricket Australia CEO. He gives us the answer.
OK, hope so. Thanks, Macca. A 2-year-old girl is in the fight of her life after falling into a popular Footscray pond. Details next on 7 News. Plus the powerful new Melbourne program giving young men a second chance. The US shivers through minus 45-degree temperatures. And later, everything you need to know about rapid COVID tests, a special medical report. The family of a 2-year-old girl is tonight praying she'll survive a near drowning in Footscray. The toddler was found unresponsive in a pond close to a popular playground.
A family day out turns to tragedy. Paramedics working on a little girl on the grass of Footscray Park. The 2-year-old was found unresponsive in this pond around 8 o'clock last night. She was rushed to the Royal Children's Hospital, where she remains in a critical condition. But distressingly, this has happened before. In June, a 3-year-old girl drowned at the same park. She was taken to hospital but died 6 days later.
Hidden waterways can hold hidden dangers. Children are really inquisitive and love to explore, so it's really important to always actively supervise children around water.
In a statement, Maribyrnong Mayor Anthony Tran said council is saddened to learn of the incident at Footscray Park. Temporary fencing will be erected around the pond while police investigate. Our thoughts are with the family at this time. Today, police photographed the scene, focusing on the fence of a playground located near the pond. Investigators say they are not treating the incident as suspicious.
Last year, Victoria recorded a 56% increase in drowning deaths at inland waterways. It's why Lifesaving Victoria says making water safety a priority is so important.
check the hazards. If you're going down to the beach, check the Beach Safe app and always swim between the red and yellow flags where our lifesavers are.
Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
Barnaby Joyce has bitten back after Hollywood star Amber Heard named her new dog after him. The Deputy Prime Minister says he's flattered he's still on her mind 6 years after the biosecurity row over celebrity dogs Pistol and Boo.
Maybe she named it after St Barnabas the Apostle, or I don't know, Barnaby Rudge from Dickens. But I think she just had to say Barnaby. But, you know, that's IQ, isn't it? She was, oh, Johnny's lovely, Johnny's lovely. Johnny was a dead.
The Deputy PM also hinted the pair has questions to answer over claims of perjury. 4 faces will be plastered across Melbourne trams this summer to shine a light on a program helping transform the lives of young men. Hundreds of newly released prisoners are being given a second chance.
Saute Sapolu became involved in criminal activity at a young age.
I was just stealing cars, doing robberies and stuff, and yeah, just up to no good.
By 21, he was jailed for almost 2 years over an armed robbery.
It was a Wednesday, and I said, Friday doesn't come, and I don't have a job. I got to pay the rent somehow.
With the help of the YMCA's Rebuild program, Saute now works at the Cranbourne Level Crossing Removal Project as a landscaper.
These individuals have come from a life behind bars to a life helping create a better Victoria.
Over the past decade, the program has employed more than 300 ex-offenders and has trained more than 100 young people in custody across different trades. Saute is now one of 4 people appearing on a tram promoting the work of the YMCA.
They kept me on the right path and helped me and taught me those life skills.
Around half of young criminals re-offend when they leave prison, but for those who get a job, just 5% go back to their old ways. This program helps save taxpayers more than $2.4 million a year in reincarceration costs.
Bringing those stories to life so Victorians can see, that level crossing removal program, that new freeway, it's helped you and your commute to work or to school, but it's also changed lives along the way as well.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
Arctic snowstorms are lashing the northern parts of the US. A holiday freeze is hitting millions trying to travel over the Christmas break, compounding the trouble for already struggling airlines.
Travel-starved Americans, finally on the move this Christmas, are finding it tough going. In the Midwest, wind chills forecast to be minus 45. In the Pacific Northwest, snowfall smashing records.
I think as far as Christmas, I think this is the most snow we've had at least in 12 years.
In the Sierra Nevada mountains, the storms have closed a key interstate highway. One measuring station here reports almost 5 metres of snow this month, a December record. Blizzards too much for local ski resorts, forcing closures. A relief for a drought-hit California that relies on melting snow for water.
It's been bad.
And infuriating for those trying to drive through the Christmas break.
Too many people that don't know how to drive in the snow.
Flying in the snow, just as frustrating. The snow comes on top of America's Omicron surge, sickening airline crews. Combined, they're behind the cancellation of more than 4,000 US flights in 4 days.
Got on the plane, everything was fine, and then one of the pilots didn't show up.
In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
Luckily, nothing like that here. Sonia Marinelli joins us now. And Sonia, the sun is back.
Yes, Mike, and I reckon it helped the Aussies retain the Ashes in record time. We hit 22.6 degrees in the day's sunshine. In the city right now, we're still holding on to the day's warmth that's sitting on 21. In a couple of days, the summer heat returns as northerly winds drag a pool of hot air down from central Australia. So prepare for heatwave conditions as a run of above average temperatures brings little relief over the new year. So you'll need to factor the heat into your celebrations. How hot will it get? I'll have the forecast after sport, Mike.
Nice tease. Thanks, Son. Up next, a distraught family is pleading for help to find their missing daughter who's vanished from Melbourne's southeast. Plus, a group of doctors, the first in the world to receive a 4th COVID jab. New research on just how accurate rapid tests really are. And the supermarket war over the humble hot cross bun. Major works are about to get underway in Melbourne's southeast to remove 3 level crossings in Pakenham. It's set to help ease congestion for commuters in the morning peak.
This project will be completed in 2024 when the 2 new stations, the new track, the extension of the train line and the open space will all be made available.
Buses will replace trains from the 11th of January until the 6th of February. Concern is growing for the safety of a missing Melbourne woman last seen a week ago in Clayton. Kylie Prince's family is desperate for answers after she vanished without her phone, wallet and handbag.
Isolated from her family and in need of help. 6 days ago, this is the last known sighting of Bentley East mother of 2, Kylie Prince. The time since has been torturous for her family based in far north Queensland.
I tried to keep an upbeat sense of happiness, but in the back of my mind I was just thinking of my dear little sister, not knowing where she is.
Last Wednesday, 53-year-old Kylie grabbed an early morning coffee at a 7-Eleven in Clayton. She hasn't been seen since, vanishing without a trace. Kylie's need for ongoing medication has made her disappearance a matter of urgency.
The longer something like this goes on, the more concerning and more apprehensive you get, because time then becomes something that's really the enemy.
Her car, a red Honda SUV with Victorian plates, is also missing. Police interstate have been notified that the mother of 2 and her car are missing. Her handbag, purse and mobile phone were left at a hospital she'd been to the day before her last sighting. She was last seen wearing a black top, light skirt and metallic gold slides. Her family is desperate for hope after enduring an anxious Christmas without her.
We're just bewildered, you know. How far can you go on a tank of fuel?
Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
A group of Israeli doctors has become the first in the world to receive their 4th COVID jab. It comes as more countries reintroduce restrictions to stop the Omicron wave impacting New Year's Eve celebrations.
A round of applause. This doctor making history, jabbed with the COVID vaccine for the 4th time.
To paraphrase an old saying, it's a small jab in the shoulder, probably a giant step for mankind.
150 hospital workers will get the extra Pfizer jab, a trial to determine if the 4th shot can better boost immunity. Other countries are taking different approaches to drive down infection rates. Nightclubs have closed in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland as part of new measures today. Social distancing rules means fewer patrons inside restaurants and pubs, similar restrictions in Germany and Belgium.
December is what gets you through January, February, when you're going into the cold winter months when people aren't spending money, and we really, really needed that.
Greece will also target nighttime entertainment venues, but not until after New Year's Eve. French President Emmanuel Macron has reduced the booster timeframe to 3 months. No new restrictions will be imposed here in England for the rest of the year. Boris Johnson met with health officials today, and despite a rise in hospitalisations and a record 113,000 COVID cases on Christmas Day, new measures are not needed.
When we look at the latest hospital admissions, a disproportionate number of those people are unvaccinated, and when you look at those requiring the most intensive care, even more are unvaccinated.
A go-ahead to celebrate with COVID caution. In London, Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Many countries around the world are increasingly relying on rapid tests as one tool to fight back against COVID. With long testing lines growing by the day, authorities here are considering how they can be used more widely. But the tests come with their own issues. Angela Cox explains.
With the ongoing drama of COVID testing queues, questions remain about the backlog and the differences between the tests. The test people queue for, the PCR test, is considered the gold standard because it has almost 100% accuracy. But the results are slow, and this is why. First, a swab is taken, then it has to be treated with an enzyme, then heated, then cooled. Before a primer is added, then the heating and cooling cycles are carried out up to 40 times. That can take up to an hour just for one batch, and that has to be multiplied by thousands day after day. Rapid antigen testing, RAT testing, is the other type. It can be done at home with a result within 30 minutes. The test finds antigens produced by the coronavirus. But rapid antigen tests can give false positives and negatives. They can miss infections if you haven't started showing symptoms. So even if you get a negative result, if you think you've been exposed, the advice is to test again in a few days.
Angela Cox reporting there. A supermarket flavour war is underway over hot cross buns. Yesterday, Coles launched the Vegemite version. Today, Woolworths has partnered with Cadbury to offer caramel hot cross buns. The sweet treats will hit shelves tomorrow. While some are angry the buns are out well before Easter, Woolies says the demand is there. 2 million hot cross buns were sold in the first week they were available last year. Up next, the incredible moment. 2 missing children were plucked to safety after a terrifying night lost in the bush. Plus, fire-ravaged Malakuta facing a new fight. The emotional reunion between a lost rescue dog and her team. And how a security guard survived being struck by lightning. 2 children who vanished in thick bushland in New South Wales have been found alive and well. 12-year-old Hannah Jones and 14-year-old Eli Jones got lost while bushwalking on a property near Mudgee on Monday. A police helicopter spotted the children in a paddock today following an extensive search.
Beyond a bit numb but elated. Thank God that it finished this way. This could have turned out very, very differently.
The family has issued a thank you to emergency services and volunteers. The town of bushfire-ravaged Malakuta is facing a new battle 2 years on from a devastating summer. Locals have been forced to pack up and move because of a critical housing shortage.
This is Jan Gilbert's temporary home. Her house was destroyed 2 years ago during the Black Summer bushfires. She was forced to move half a dozen times before finally getting a temporary modular home through the state government.
This is it. It's not huge, but, at least it's allowed me to get my own furniture, some of my own furniture again, and just replace things that, were in my house.
But she's not alone. The demand for accommodation is pushing up prices for homes and rentals in East Gippsland. For many locals still recovering mentally and physically from the bushfires, the cost is out of reach.
The tenants actually didn't get financial benefits when they had to move house, and they went through the trauma, but it was the homeowners that had the benefit.
3-bedroom home prior to COVID and prior to the bushfires, you were looking at around that $270 a week. Now it's been pushed up to more around that $400 to $450 a week.
Businesses in Malakuta are still struggling to fill around 20 full-time and part-time jobs with nowhere for staff to live. Some tenants have been asked to vacate for summer too.
The housing situation in Malakuta is pretty dire.
More than 120 homes were lost across the community. Now there's a push for more short-term accommodation and social housing to help ease the crisis.
Just the scale has been huge. We've lost 1/3 of all the houses lost in all of Victoria.
But as Jan knows, building a home is no quick fix. Her rebuild is yet to begin.
It hasn't even been pegged out yet. So, building, isn't really going to start until end of January, beginning of February.
Residents looking to build say they desperately need more tradies in Malakuta, but the lack of housing means even if they were to come here, they too would struggle to find somewhere to stay.
It just feels like we're banging our head against a brick wall.
Thankfully, there's some short-term relief on the way. Government agencies say they're making a vacant lot available for interim housing while they explore other potential social and affordable housing solutions. Ashley Kanowski, 7 News.
Search and rescue teams have saved one of their own after an intense hunt in England. Juno, the German pointer, usually tracks missing people, but went missing herself in freezing conditions.
A man reunited with his best friend after 6 days of searching.
It's not just about our dog, it's a member of Lowland Rescue, and this is what it means to everyone from Lowland Rescue.
A team of more than 60 had been looking for Juno after she went missing in the woods in Norfolk on the east coast of England.
Search areas down here.
The search and rescue dog is used to helping bring others to safety, but now the roles were reversed And the hunt was on to find one of their own. Finally, a breakthrough.
They think they found her.
A drone pilot proved his pedigree, spotting Juno on a small island nearby.
Well, we're looking for a high-vis vest. We knew she's wearing a yellow high-vis. I zoomed in, but I was probably flying at about 30 metres and then zoomed the camera in. And she looked up at the drone as well.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
This was a tale with a very happy ending, the perfect Christmas gift for Juno's owner. It may have arrived a few days late, but Juno definitely won't be in the doghouse. Matthew Carstunen, 7 News.
A security guard has miraculously survived after being struck by lightning in Indonesia. The 35-year-old was patrolling a stockyard when he was hit. Bright sparks caught on security video. His umbrella was vaporised, but he suffered only minor burns to his hands. Remarkable. Sports next with Andrew McCormack and Macca. Brad Hodge was dropped after a test double century, and Scott Boland could be equally as unlucky.
Absolutely, Mike. The Aussie selectors face arguably their toughest selection decision of the summer. We'll explain their predicament next, as we get an exclusive look at the Aussie Ashes celebrations after a day that will go down in MCG folklore. Also, how a Stars batting weapon found his groove to upstage the big names in the Big Bash. The Australian Open champ touches down to defend her title, and Paddy Mills on fire in the NBA as one fan gets a reminder to always keep your eye on the ball. Welcome back. After writing his name into Ashes folklore, incredibly, Scott Boland could be dropped for the fourth test. 7 News had exclusive access as the Aussies spent the afternoon lapping up their demolition of England.
Soaking up the spoils with the series wrapped up and the Ashes staying in Australian hands.
It's just worked out fantastically so far. Winning early on day 3 just doesn't happen in the MCG, so it's a fantastic result.
All over inside 2.5 days. An Australian obliteration by an innings and 14 runs. England skittled for just 68.
A little embarrassed, to be honest. Everyone was looking forward to a competitive Ashes series.
Pat Cummins, now an Ashes winning captain.
Yeah, it's pretty insane when you say it like that.
A remarkable turnaround in just 6 weeks for a team who was under siege, now with a World Cup trophy and urn in their keeping.
This really consolidates that we are, a really good, strong Test cricket side. And as I said earlier, I think it's a good sign for the next few years.
Today's final 6 wickets taken in just 80 minutes.
Oh, through him! He's got him!
Stokes gone as the skipper tried to weather the storm.
That's not that spot again, is it?
Bairstow trapped in front.
Up goes the finger!
Root followed, caught behind for the 6th time in 6 innings.
Gone! Scott Boland's debut can't get any better.
It did.
Edge taken, 6 for. What is going on?
Victoria's newest cricket hero riding himself into MCG folklore.
Something that I'm very proud of now. I've never played in front of a crowd that's been so supportive of me like that.
But no guarantee for a start in Sydney.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked that far ahead, to be honest. I know Josh is probably back. Jai might be back as well, so we'll just wait and see what happens with the selection.
He'll never buy a beer in his life, and he may well not play again for a while because of upcoming selection possibilities with our other legend, Josh Hazlewood. It'll be a tough call, but it'll be, I think, a unanimous call that Josh will take his place.
Australia chasing a series whitewash in a repeat of 2014, while Joe Root is staring down questions of his captaincy.
No, I'm in the middle of a very important series. My energy has to be all about trying to win the next game. I can't be selfish and start thinking about myself.
And despite the whopping 6,000 cases in New South Wales, more than double Victoria, Cricket Australia is adamant the next test will forge on at the SCG starting January 5. Both teams are due to fly to Sydney via a charter on New Year's Eve, where they've booked an entire hotel. Here's Cricket Australia's CEO Nick Hockley on their plans and the relief after the players' PCR results came back negative this morning.
Absolutely, the fourth test will go ahead in Sydney. We're working very closely, obviously, with the SCG, with the New South Wales government. All the plans are set. There were lots of fingers and toes crossed overnight, and when the tests all came back negative, obviously we were very, very relieved.
The English lads
6 England staff members and support staff and families have returned positive results in the last 48 hours. But in order to keep the test, New South Wales have changed their rules in line with Victoria, where close contacts only need to isolate until returning a negative result. Andrew?
Thanks, Mitch. Mitch Cleary there. Still on cricket, and Stars batsman Hilton Cartwright has credited World Cup hero Marcus Stoinis for his resurgence in the Big Bash. Stoinis failed with the bat last night against the Heat, along with Glenn Maxwell. Reeling at 3 for 16, Cartwright and Joe Clark rescued the innings, putting on a 151-run stand, belting 13 sixes between them to lift the Stars to 207 off their 20 overs.
Oh my! He has picked it up and put a shocking ball where it deserved to go.
Chris Lynn smashed 57 off 34 deliveries, but it wasn't enough, with the Stars getting home by 20 runs to jump inside the top 4. Tennis star Naomi Osaka has touched down, ready to defend her Australian Open title. The world number 13 was part of the first contingent to arrive in Melbourne on a special charter flight from the US. Osaka hasn't played a major tournament since her tearful exit at the US Open 3 months ago. She'll wait a negative COVID test before hitting the practice courts at Melbourne Park. Paddy Mills is building on his NBA All-Star credentials. The Boomers captain shot down both LA teams within 3 days. Mills hit 6 threes in the Nets' win over the Clippers. That's 14 triples in the last 2 games.
Mills creating space and knocking down threes.
Joe Ingles got the better of Aussie teammate Jock Landale with 17 points in Utah's win over San Antonio. And this fan got a painful reminder to keep your eye on the ball in Charlotte's win over Houston. Mike, that is all in for sport in a day that will go down in Ashes folklore.
Keep your eye on the ball, indeed. Thanks, Macca. Sonia Marinelli is next with the forecast. And Sonia, the heat is on its way.
It certainly is, Mike. A heat wave is set to hit over the new year, and I'll have all of the details for you next. Hello again, and what a perfect day it was to wrap up the cricket and hit the beach. The city clocked 22.6 degrees out in the sunshine after dropping down to 11. The day's warmth is still holding on. We're sitting in the low 20s around the city, a tad cooler though in Geelong, where it is 18 degrees right now. Across the state, no one missed out on the day's sunshine. Right now, temperatures are mild to warm under a light to moderate east to southeasterly wind. We are under the influence of a broad ridge of high pressure at the moment. Highs generally deliver warm, dry and settled conditions, and that is exactly what we are about to enjoy. Tomorrow, this high out to our west gets moving out over the Tasman. That's going to swing our winds around to a northerly, opening up the floodgates for all of the heat that's been pooling to our north to wash down over the state. So the warm winds arrive on Thursday and the heat builds. We're expecting a run of hot days, which has triggered a heatwave alert. A low-intensity heatwave starts on Thursday. It covers most of the state, but it will be severe for this area in orange. Heading around the nation now, cloudy but warm in Brisbane. Showers are on the way in Sydney, mild and dry in Canberra and Hobart, but it's hot and dry in Adelaide and Perth. To Victoria now, patchy early morning fog in the south, lifting to another sunny day statewide. Light to moderate southeasterlies again, keeping it mild down along the coast, but north of the divide, temperatures head back into the 30s. Closer in, and we're in for another ripper day right around the suburbs. The outer suburbs could get some patchy fog early, then it's sunshine right around the city. 25 in Essendon, 24 in Frankston, 23 degrees down in Cranbourne, and a top of 23 for those of you in Geelong. In the city, it is a rerun of today. We head for a top of 24 degrees with lots of sunshine. On Thursday, the temperature jumps up to 33 degrees on New Year's Eve. In the city, it is 38 degrees, and we should be sitting on around 23 degrees at midnight. A late wind change on New Year's Day will cap the temperature at 31 before settling on a pleasant 25 degrees on Sunday. We drop down to 23 on Monday and Tuesday as that cloud starts to build. So New Year's Eve is the hottest day in the outlook, a top of 38 degrees. Mike, how's that for timing, hey?
It's a hot end to the year. Thank you, Son. Now, let's take a look at what's on Sunrise tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Mike. Tomorrow on Sunrise, streaming splurge. How much are you really spending on subscriptions?
The simple steps to cut back without cutting yourself off. See just how much you could save.
Catch you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's 7 News. We'll have updates throughout the evening. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.